In this lesson, we are going to implement payment order by. In this lesson, we implement pay order by PayPal. Here is the plan. First of all, we need to create a PayPal developer account and get PayPal client ID. To do that, we need to go to this address, developer.paypal.com, and click on Get API Credential. Then you need to log into your PayPal account and get the client ID and put the client ID inside backend folder .env by this name, PayPal client ID, and paste your ID here. I'm using SP, stand for sandbox, for test, but for real live payment, you need to put your own client ID. Next step is in the key router. We need to go to the routers folder inside backend src routers and create a new file named keyrouter.ts. What I'm gonna do here is to send the API, the PayPal client ID to the front end by defining an API here. Here is the code to create the API, import Express from Express, define key router from router function of Express, and define this API at this address /API/keys/PayPal. We add this part in the index.ts when we use the key router. When user send AJAX request to this address, we return this JSON object. It's an object that has client ID, and the value of client ID comes from the PayPal client ID inside the .env file using process.env.PayPal client ID. If it doesn't exist, use sandbox SP to create just the sandbox client ID for testing PayPal payment. Great. Let's use key router inside the index.ts, but don't forget you need to export it first. Go to index.ts and just duplicate one of usage of routers, rename it to keys, and key router, press tab to import it. So when we send request to /API/key router handle the request, and by having this address, this value will be returned to the front end. That's it about PayPal client ID. Let's go to the order router. Open order router inside backend src routers, and after post creating order, define a new route. Here is the new route. It's a put API, and the address is /API/orders/ID of order/pay. We call this API when payment has been done successfully in PayPal to update the status of order to paid. Only authenticated user can access to this API, and what we do in this function is to define an async function that accepts request and response from Express. Inside that, we get the order. Inside that, we get the order from database by order ID in the URL and check the order. If it exists, then change the status of is paid to true, set the paid at field to current date, and fill payment result by the data from front end. This data comes from the PayPal website, PayPal API. and then save the order and put the saved order inside updated order variable and return the updated order to the front end to use it inside the order page. If there is an error, the order not found, set the status code to 404 and send this JSON message, order not found. Good. That's about the backend part. Let's go to the client part inside the order hook. Here I'm going to define two hooks, one for getting PayPal client ID and the other one to update the payment status of order. Here is the use get PayPal client ID query to get the PayPal client ID. Here is the code to get PayPal client ID. I defined use get PayPal client ID hook. It's a function that returns use query hook, and inside and as parameter to use query hook, I pass this object. The key is PayPal client ID, and the function that send the query API request to the backend is this function. Here I use API client to send a GET request to this API, to this address, and get the result and return it back to the query function, and we can use it in the order page. Next function is pay order hook. Let's define it. After use get PayPal client ID, define another hook. The name of this hook is pay order mutation because we change data in backend, we use mutation. And what we return in the arrow function is use mutation from React query. Use mutation accept an object as parameter, and we need to define mutation function as a field of this object. Mutation function accept an arrow function. Here we set the arrow function, and the parameter to this function is details. The details has an object of type order ID, and the order ID is of type string. And what we did in the mutation function is to send an AJAX request of type put. HTTP verb is put because we are going to update something in the order and change the isPaid status to true. That's why it should be put. And the return value of this API is message and order. If we check the order router, we need to set order and set message here, order paid, successfully. So the return data type is order and message, and then inside order hook, we have order and message. The API address to send the put request is API/orders/ID of order/pay. And then we pass the details. Details contains the payment result, including email address of payer and other information. When we send a request, we get the result, and from the result, we get the data and send it back to the mutation function so we can use it inside the order page by calling use pay order mutation hook. Next step is installing PayPal React PayPal.js. It's the package that officially released by PayPal to use PayPal button in React application. Let's install it. Copy this code. Open a new terminal. Go to frontend folder and npm install PayPal client PayPal/react-paypal-js. Awesome. After installing, go to main.tsx and wrap helmet provider inside PayPal script provider. Set option, and option is an object, and in this object define client ID to sandbox and set defer loading property to true. Then close it. By having defer loading property, it's not gonna load PayPal script on page load, so it makes our website faster, and when we need it, we can ask PayPal to load the script. So here I have the closing, so I need to move the helmet provider inside the PayPal script provider, so it's gonna be the final shape of JSX in the main.tsx. Next step is in the order page. Go to order page. Here we are going to show PayPal button. First of all, in the use get order details query, define refetch, because after updating the order status, we are going to refetch to update the UI based on the changes in the backend. Then define this function. It's test pay handler. We are going to test it. We are going to test the pay order API without sending AJAX, without redirecting user to the PayPal website to make the real payment. We just use it for development mode, and in production you do not use it. We use Toast, import Toast from React Toastify, and we use pay order and pass order ID as parameter. What is pay order? It comes from the use pay order mutation. Let's define it. Right before test pay handler, define use pay order mutation hook and get mutate async from this hook and rename it to pay order. So when we call pay order, the API at /API/orders/order ID/pay will be called as put request. Also, rename is loading to loading pay. We use it to show a loading box while we are processing the payment of order. Next step is using PayPal script reducer hook. By calling, let's import it from PayPal React JS package. We use PayPal dispatch to load the API, to load the PayPal request, and is pending and is rejected shows the status of fetching PayPal script from PayPal website. Next step is calling use get PayPal client ID query hook from hooks/order hooks. And what I'm gonna get from this hook is the PayPal config. What is PayPal config? It's the result of key router. It's the result of this API. So PayPal config has client ID. How can I get the client ID from it? I should do it in the useEffect. Define useEffect function like this, import useEffect from React, and inside that, check PayPal config. If we have PayPal config, it means that we loaded the PayPal config and PayPal config has client ID, then define load script function and call it. When we call, this action will be dispatched. This action load the PayPal. This action set the options of PayPal based on the client ID from the .env file in the backend and set currency to USD. You can change it to whatever you want. After dispatching this, it's time to dispatch another action from PayPal, and it's setting the loading status to pending. Let's get script loading status from PayPal/React-PayPal.js at this point. And by dispatching this, it shows loading and set is pending to true, and after resetting options and making PayPal button ready, it's gonna be false. Then load PayPal script, call this function to do the actions of PayPal to provide PayPal button in the website. Next step is defining PayPal button transaction props. What is this? We use this when we want to render a PayPal button in the screen. So we need to pass it as a props to the PayPal button. The type of this object is PayPal button component props imported from @PayPal/React-PayPal-JS. What is the content of this object? First property is style. I'm setting to layout to put button vertically. Second one is create order function. Third one is onApprove function. And the last one is onError function. What we did in this object is to define the behavior of PayPal button when it renders in the screen. This function will be called. When the payment is successful, this function will be called. And when there is an error in payment, this function will be called. For create order, what we need to do is to call actions.order.actions. For create order, what we need to do is to return actions.order.create function. It's a function from PayPal, and inside the create, we need to put the property of this transaction, including the price, the value of transaction, and it should come from the order total. Let's define the order total price inside create function as an object. In this object, we define purchase units, and inside purchase units define an array. The first element of array is an object that contains amount, and amount is an object that has value, and the value should be a string representation of total price. When we create an order in the PayPal, we need to call then and return the order ID created by PayPal. It is different from the order ID that we have in our e-commerce website. Awesome. Here is the create order. It happens after rendering the PayPal button. And second one is onApprove, and it happens after finishing payment in PayPal. What we need to do here is to change the status of order in backend to paid. Let's do that. Here is the code. We need to return action.order.capture. By calling capture, the order will be set to paid in the PayPal. We settle the payment. And inside then, it means that the capture was successful. We define an async function, get the details of payment, and in try catch, we call pay order from where? From use pay order mutation. So it will call this API and change the status of payment to true. So after calling pay order, we refetch the data to update the data in the UI and show this message, order is paid successfully. If there is an error, show error message. And if there is an error in payment, this function will be called and it shows the error message. Awesome. We created the PayPal button transaction props and we are ready to use it in the JSX, where right after total price here. What I'm gonna render here is a conditional rendering. If order.isPaid is false, it means that I need to show PayPal button. So render this element. It's a list group item, and inside that I check is pending. Is pending comes from PayPal. If we are loading button, show loading box. If there is an error in loading button, show error box. And if everything is okay, inside a div, show PayPal button. Import PayPal button from PayPal package. Pass the props as properties of PayPal button, and right after this button, render another button and set onClick to test pay handler. It's just for development mode, and when you want to put this application and deploy it, you need to remove it. Save the code and let's check the result. Select the product, add to cart, proceed to checkout, continue, and click on place order. Awesome. We have PayPal button here. If we click on PayPal button, we will be redirected to the PayPal website using Sandbox account. And if you log in with your Sandbox account and make the payment, you will be redirected to the website, and the status of payment will be changed to paid. In the unapproved, I'm going to use await to finish the payment and then refetch it. Let's try again. Select another product, add to cart, proceed to checkout, continue, place order, PayPal button, and click on test pay. Inside the test pay, use await to and make the function async. And let's try again. Select the product, add to cart, proceed checkout, shipping, payment, and click on place order. And then click on test pay. Awesome. Here, the status have been changed to the paid. Good, we've successfully implemented PayPal payment. That's it about this lesson.